Hi guys, hope you're well. I've got a really interesting guest today. One of the things I've been trying to do almost with the kind of growth strategy live stream is talk about real kind of business, real businesses, real people, and almost kind of introduce you to some people that you might not have met before, and then actually kind of dig into their kind of backstory and, basically kind of explore part of the journey. Because I think one of the big things for me is how, for a lot of people, everyone has their own kind of entrepreneurial journey that they kind of want to go on, but it often helps to have heard from and almost met in some ways people in the local region who have their own kind of story to tell. And then actually from one of my previous guests, who was a guy called Charlie, and it was all to do with property. I think 5 or 6 people have reached out to him since. So what I'm trying to do is just connect real people, talk about real stuff, and hopefully it's of interest. So I'm going to introduce you to Martin. There we go. So would you like to say hello to everyone?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hi, Steve. You well?
Yeah, good. Just out of interest before we kind of go into the interview bit, how's lockdown treating you?
It's relatively good. It's been at home a lot more than I usually would have. As you can see, I've come out to the office to do this because actually working from home would have been particularly difficult with 2 young children and doing this kind of thing. So just come into the office. But yeah, all good. Family's well.
Because I must admit, you're quite into your fitness.
Yes. Yeah.
I was going to say, how have you found that?
It's been more difficult than usual. Still being able to get out there and do the old running and walking and things, but sort of the actual training like we used to do in the gyms been a bit more difficult. So I've been doing a lot more of that at home, sort of home training, but not as consistent as I would have liked. So sort of swapped that out for relaxing with a few more beers than I usually would, I think.
No, one of the things that I've found is almost the intentionally or not, sometimes my motivation's dropped a little bit. So it's almost where it's hard to keep going in some ways.
I think it definitely has. I think for the first few weeks, it was sort of like when you were caught up in the sort of the whole whirlwind of the whole coronavirus and the lockdown, and things were changing so rapidly, you didn't really have time to consider it. But certainly over this last couple of weeks, when everything seems to have settled, that's where it's become harder to sort of keep yourself motivated, keep your team motivated as well. That's one of the challenges we've got when we're working remotely, and we've got guys, so like say, working from home, we've got guys still out on the ground, and trying to keep everybody motivated with everything that's going on has been difficult, let alone yourself.
Because I've found that with a lot of the companies that I work with, just for some reason this week in particular, I think there's been a drop. I think it's almost when I wrote a post about it, it's almost like the stages of grief, where originally it was a bit of a shock, and then there was a bit of a novelty, and then it goes on, and you kind of realize it's probably not going to live for a while. So I've almost noticed that there's been a mood drop this week. Hopefully, it'll lift, but I think it is starting to affect people.
Well, yeah, I think when I've obviously speak to people every day, sort of who we work with, and you catch up and things like that. And I think what a lot of people have been experiencing is they have consecutive days of where they're feeling great, they're getting on with stuff, they're feeling productive, and then 2, 3 really, like you said, dark days where motivation's at an all-time low. You're wondering what's going to come out when this all ends, where we're going to be left, and what sort of business we're going to have moving forward. So I think it has been sort of, like I said, it's starting to creep in more and more over this last week or two. People starting to really consider what there is going to be when we start to come back. Everybody keeps mentioning this new normal, but when we get back to this new normal, I think people are now starting to wonder what that's going to be. And I think it is concerning for a lot.
So we met back in December, I think it was. It was James, a guy called James Clingham, introduced us.
Yeah, that's right.
James is going to be one of my future guests, he assures me, but he wants to get his new branding done first. So you'll see James in a few weeks. And then, so we met in kind of Darlington in December. And it was one of those things, right. I think from the first time we kind of met, I could tell you've got a very good story to tell. And it was one of those things that when I definitely kind of started to do this, I like to share stories of interesting people that doing, done really good things. And I think yours is kind of worth telling. So would you be up for kind of giving people your backstory and then telling you how the start of the business?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, backstory, I'm as you can probably tell from the accent, Northeast lad. Grew up in the East Durham, so in the colliery villages, mining villages is where I grew up. Spent most of my time around East Durham, sort of as a young kid and moving into a teenager and whatnot. And then eventually I settled down in Darlington, sort of where you came to meet me. Now live in Darlington. that was when I met my wife. So yeah, moved down here. Business was set up in 2006. So at the time, the business was just set up. Back then, it was a domestic window cleaning business. So we started out cleaning windows. That was sort of how it was. I was quite fortunate to sort of have a little bit of a helping hand from father-in-law. So he had a business as well, and I started out with him just a day a week and sort of set up my own round as such. And we looked to build that up and built the round up, and eventually ended up going fully on my own. And sort of window cleaned for a good few years. Enjoyed it. Life was simple then. So yeah, window cleaned for a good number of years, and then you started to sort of just naturally move into more sort of commercial things. You were asked to do commercial window cleaning. You started to move into that, and then it was just a natural progression into cleaning the internal of the offices. Mm-hmm. So, and at that point in time, it said it was just me. Sort of carrying out the window cleaning early morning through the day, and then going and cleaning offices sort of late on an evening. So it was sort of where the business started, really, and it all just started to evolve from there.
So can I ask, just because I think it'll be interesting for a lot of young people as well, how did you do at school? Did you always know you were going to do your own thing? Or because what I'm trying to do is almost it'll inspire other people that are thinking about the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Academically at school, not the best. I was always told, very intelligent boy, just couldn't apply himself. So as far as sort of academically, no. I went to college, did A-levels, went to university as well, failed the first year twice.
What did you do at uni?
Accounting and business.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I suppose I always had a little bit of an idea that I would go into business. I just never really had anybody in my family or in my close circles that had actually been self-employed. So I never really had that, what would you say, sort of to be able to get that advice and for somebody to sort of give me that idea until I sort of met my father-in-law. So that was when I became self-employed. I always kind of knew I would end up working for myself because I found it extremely difficult, late teens, early 20s, holding a job down with anyone.
Yeah.
So
out of interest, why do you think that was?
I like to do things myself. I like to do things my own way. And then I also, I suppose I used to struggle with doing something for somebody else.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I empathize.
I was going to say I struggle with authority, which is something that I've always done.
But I think it's a character trait that almost one of the things that I've noticed, which almost my wife drummed into me, is that if I believe into the vision, the values and the passion of the people and the organization, I properly buy into it. But if there's anything which is almost that niggles away at me, something I don't like, if there's some immoral stuff going on, it almost eats away at me. And it was about a year or so ago, I think my wife said to me, I probably wouldn't be happy unless I was working for myself. So I empathize with the...
How's that working out for you? Are you happy?
It's good, actually, because I enjoy the creative stuff. So even before we kind of came on camera, I was almost panicking and saying that I still get nervous. But for me, it's I still think I can learn stuff quicker than most people. So from a business point of view, if you can innovate and change and do stuff that other people can't, kind of gives you an advantage. So for me, in some ways, that because it is just me and I do my own graphic design, photography, social media, actual running the business, my own finances, everything. It's great because there's obviously very low overheads. And actually the thing that I really like is that for me, it's more about building long-term relationships with a small number of people. So actually I don't necessarily need 100 customers, but it's, just a handful actually more than kind of sees me through. So almost because of that, I get to kind of dive in and almost be part of people's teams. And actually, one of the things that I've really enjoyed was that there's one customer who I was able to chase down a bad debt for them, and that was a significant amount of money, which I think it was just luck, actually. It was my first phone call. One of the ladies there calls me Mary Poppins. So just come in and just fix things and disappear. But it's kind of, it's buying into different people's teams and getting involved. And actually, the more you get to know them, the more I get involved. And actually, one of the things that I love is almost it's like a mentoring side to it. So you actually develop relationships with some of the staff that work there. And again, when I was kind of coming through in the different jobs I've had, I never necessarily had someone to look out for me. So it was always,
Yeah.
I was trying to learn it myself from scratch. And actually, if I can play the tiniest little part to help people make that next step,
Yes.
that's kind of what I get excited about.
No, which is great. And I think what you've touched on there is sort of the mentoring side and things like that is something that a lot of people in business setting out in business. I mean, that's something that I would certainly ask people to do, because certainly for myself, I've learned by my mistakes. So, and it would have been amazing to have been able to have saved myself a hell of a lot of pain and stress, and obviously had a mentor and had somebody who could have been involved sort of the 10, 11, 12 years ago, and helped me with the business and helped me set the business up back then. So, but, here we are.
I think that's almost the side of it, is that you have to find someone that you resonate with, because it's almost you have a lot of people that will tell you what they think, regardless of if it's the right thing actually to do or not. There's a lot of people that just want to spout off their opinions, and it's almost, it's that balance when you find someone that you trust that's almost been through it before, but not necessarily just taking it verbatim. That must be correct. It's putting your own kind of spin and influence on it. And it's, for me, that's always a big thing, that when you were saying about almost putting yourself out of your comfort zone and regretting things, many times I regret doing the whole live stream thing, because it's so much harder than I thought it'd be. But actually it's part of the challenge. And, I guess as we all kind of learn to innovate and adapt and kind of move forward, what this in theory enables me to do is contact 8 billion people on YouTube and do things that with a Zoom call, you can host webinars and you can invite 49 people, maybe 100, but it's not public. And it's that balance almost from a business development stroke longer term, kind of goal. And, for me, there's a big bit about the education kind of piece of helping people take that next kind of step. I like learning new stuff, and, and realistically, even if it was an absolute shit show and it just kind of, was disastrous, I will learn from it and I'll, keep going. So
well, that's what they say, don't they? Isn't it fail fast?
Yeah. Well, I failed very fast and publicly.
Yeah, you and me both.
But no, I appreciate
the failures and the challenges seem to get bigger and bigger the longer you're going. So,
but like you said that you before we came on the call, that almost this is out your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, it is a little bit. This obviously it's something as well. To be honest, I'd sort of set out at the start of the year to get on board with doing things like this. Getting myself out there and I'm not my personality. I don't really want to go openly saying I feel I've got a good story to tell. But to be honest, if I can tell what we've done and offer any kind of advice, and anybody takes anything away from it, then great. Because
I think they will. And, there'll be lads everywhere that almost are the same age that you were, who aren't happy doing what they were doing. And actually just, they'll all have their own idea about doing stuff. And actually to see someone that's done it. And again, one thing that I'm very interested in is that it's seeing people from your own background and neighborhood that have done it, and not just some guy in London or San Francisco. And again, that's a big part of with this, is I think it's really important, because it's almost...
Well, I think it's a big part, for me, it's a big part for this region. It's a big part for the Northeast. Like you've mentioned London there, and it's something where, I want to show the case and show that there are people around this region. And obviously it's a great platform, your show, to start to do that for myself. It's something that the Northeast, really, there are people in the Northeast that have achieved things and who will achieve more and want to achieve more, and set an example to a lot of people. Obviously, a lot where I'm from originally, those streets and the areas now were quite desolate, a lot of them, and things like that. And if we can just sort of give some kind of motivation to 2, 3, 4, 5 people in them areas, set up their own businesses, just to understand that they can get out. There is other things out there that they can go and do. They don't have to be stuck as well. That's sort of working for somebody else. There's opportunities and there's things out there, and it's a bigger world than just being in the Northeast as well.
So out of interest, if I can dig into it a bit, I noticed when I was doing my homework and I went onto MGF's website, is that you're not mentioned many places. I was going to say anywhere, but I'm sure there's somewhere. But it's almost, had you previously taken the decision to always sit behind the scenes a little bit?
Well, to not necessarily sit behind the scenes, but what I'm again, it's not necessarily my personality, but for my business, this business is here for everybody. So first and foremost, we're all equal in this business. I'm not somebody who's at the forefront and leading and being this is who I am, and I don't want it to be about me. This business is about everybody in it, and obviously the website and the marketing and things that we do. It's to try and promote that, sort of that outlook. It's the fact that it's here from for our staff, for the cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
We've got cleaners, floor installers, contract managers, area managers. We've got people from all walks of life, and everybody's just as equally as important as what I am, and that's kind of what the website and things entail. I'm not wanting to be taking the shine from anybody else in the business.
No, but I think that's almost one of the things that I think is very good. It was going to be, do you want to give a plug for whoever it was that did your kind of marketing? Because I do think it's very good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the story and the tone, obviously that all comes from us. It all comes from me. That's obviously what we want our business to be perceived as. And we work very closely with a company called Unwritten Group up in Newcastle, who did Unwritten Group. So they did the branding and the rebrand. And all of our social media had been done by Social Co up in Durham. Have you come across them, the Social Co?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were looking after our socials. So two, obviously, again, local companies, people in the northeast.
Because one of the things that I like about it, which is almost where I think it shines through, and I've never seen any company do it as well as what you do, is that you not only embrace the fact that you have different people at different wage levels doing different jobs, but you embrace it, you celebrate them, you kind of talk about them, you show them in the images. And I've had this in previous jobs where I wanted to show the real staff and the real people behind the business. And not every business owner is happy or comfortable to do that. And actually, I'd encourage anyone to almost check out MGF stuff, because I think you do it better than almost anyone. But actually, because of that, it builds a whole extra level of trust for me that you don't get if everything is super slick, polished, etc. Actually showing real people doing real stuff, I think, is almost the best possible way that you could sell, the company. And actually, I think you nailed it 10 out of 10 on No,
I really appreciate that, Steve. Really appreciate that. I think obviously I want to see things start to improve again and get slicker and the message get out there even more. But like you said, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I want to celebrate everybody in the business and things like that is because I know firsthand what everybody goes through on a daily basis in this business. Yeah. I've got up at 4:00 in the morning to go and window clean. I've got up at 5, 6, 7, gone and cleaned the pubs, the nightclubs, the some sites and all these kind of places. I've worked 365 days of the year. I understand what my guys are going through and all the staff that work for the business are going through. So, of course, we want to sort of make sure that they're celebrated and that they're kind of at the forefront of what we do.
The whole process of actually doing that shows really good leadership. And again, you don't see that in many places. So I just think it's really good. And I think anyone should kind of check it out.
No, I appreciate that.
Now, honestly, would you be happy to walk everyone through the journey? So you started, was it just yourself or yourself and a mate?
Yeah, like I said, just myself. Obviously, I'd worked alongside my father-in-law for a little while and cut my teeth and sort of started to understand about self-employment. Day or two a week, I worked with him whilst building up my own work. Once my own work was built up, that I sort of went off and just looked after that, which was, again, it was just domestic window cleaning. And that, it's touched on earlier, moved into doing commercial window cleaning, and then it was a bit of a easy progression into doing the office cleaning for the window cleaning clients. And at that time back then, probably 2008-9, it still would have been sort of myself, sort of looking at doing all the cleaning, window cleaning, accounts.
How was it taking on your first kind of member of staff?
Yeah, I mean, I have to. So I remember to this day, it was a window cleaner. Obviously, having somebody who worked alongside me in the van at the time, and I think I've spoken to you about this in the past. Yeah. And so at that point in time, it was, to me, it was a good feeling, and it was one of those that sort of there was just something inside me that wanted to employ people. So once he was employed, it didn't daunt me, it didn't faze me. It was something that, again, from that point, I just thought to myself, I enjoy this. I want to sort of grow my business. At the time as well, I didn't know where I was going. It was just growing the window cleaning business. Mm-hmm. Then it was growing the cleaning business. But all along, I wanted to grow and employ people, bring people along. Again, we've touched on people come into the business and start out as a window cleaner and potentially as a cleaner, who end up being supervisors, contract managers, hopefully even more. I'd love to think somebody came through and ended up being a director of the business. And that's where I think I would have maybe succeeded, would class having the business as a success then. So, yeah, employing the first guy, it was obviously great, enjoyed it, took that on and started to employ more and more and more.
So what for you was the first kind of big milestone for the business? The one point where you've like, oh, it's starting to get traction.
Obviously, I very rarely look back. That's one of my sort of. I struggle to sort of look back and reflect. But I think I would say one of the first turning points would have been first time we've advertised. So we back then again. Showing the age I'm getting to now, sort of pre-social media, Yellow Pages, an advert in the Yellow Pages, and sort of that advert brought along our first builders clean. So doing a clean for a construction company, which is sort of quite a relatively big part of our business now, working with construction companies. And back then, getting that first clean in, not that I would have known it back then, and it was actually for Steve Gibson's business over at Bulk Hall. Okay. So a construction company was building his new truck MOT garage. So we actually did the builders clean on that. That must be about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And that was quite a pivotal moment, because that's what's seen us go into working with the construction companies, where, like I said, now at this present day, we work nationally with a lot of the construction companies, and we've got a real good relationship with some of the top sort of main contractors in the country.
Because if I may, it's almost from a business strategy point of view that you had an original product or service, and then at some point an opportunity came up that you decided to diversify into.
Yeah.
And then there's been one or two more that you've kind of gone into, which we can touch on in a second. But what's quite very clever is that with any business, no matter what it is, you have a customer that has a pain point, and you were solving one of them. And then you soon realize, well, actually, that same customer also needs this, and this.
Yeah.
And then the ability and just the conscious awareness to then add those into your kind of portfolio and build the business in the right way, almost developing better and stronger relationships as you go forward. It's the perfect way to grow a business. And actually most people actually never do that. So they might say, look, I'm just a window cleaner, or I'm just a marketer, or I'm just whatever. But actually properly looking at what your customers need is exactly what you've done. And then to take it from just a local kind of Darlington Northeast business to how many kind of sites have you got? Or, what's your geographic reach?
National. So at the moment we do have satellite offices, virtual offices. They are Edinburgh and London, and we've got a base in Leeds as well. We carry out work nationally on a regular basis. We've got projects going on currently in London. We've just finished projects off at the borders in Scotland, and sort of cleaning contracts at the moment, builders cleans and things going on sort of along the M62 corridor, Manchester, Leeds. So, and obviously up into the northeast.
And what's kind of turnover revenue now? If you're happy to.
Sorry.
If you're happy to kind of share. My point is, what I'm trying to do is it's more just trying to show people how you started just on your own, and you've grown a genuinely national business, which, is more than £1 million turnover, put it that way.
It is, yeah.
But this is my point, is that I'm trying to help inspire and just share the story for guys that actually they start on their own. Like I'm not in a bedroom, but I'm in my office next to my bedroom.
Yeah.
But people quite literally start a business in their bedroom. And I imagine that you would have never thought actually we'd have offices in Leeds, London, Edinburgh.
No, not at all. Yeah, and I mean, obviously that it was never considered at the time. I think my first, you touched on sort of first goal for me when we first set everything up and I started to move into the cleaning was to reach that £1 million turnover, and we did that quite early on, and we've sort of moved on from there now, and we're just in the process again of sort of consolidating a little bit at the moment, just so we can move the business on again to the next level. We want to establish ourselves in the other areas now where we're working quite regularly. We want to become established in London. We want to become established in Scotland and start to grow our businesses properly across the country. So
you started in window cleaning, then you moved on to commercial contract cleaning, That's how good
Yep.
my memory is. Then
Go
you
on.
moved into basically to construction, clean it after a building's
Yeah.
been finished to clean it out. You expanded from that into doing the hard resin floors for different buildings.
Yeah, 2014, we acquired a business in Leeds, which was a great business, owner-operated business, and we were very fortunate, in my opinion, to sort of be able to pick that business up. I had no idea what resin flooring was, not a single idea. What I wanted was a complementary service to what we already did. So what I could see was that a lot of the clients that we worked for would use this other service, and then the business that we bought, F&G Industrial from Leeds, they had a couple of good clients on their sort of books that I knew I could give my other services to. So we were lucky and very fortunate enough to be able to get that business, and we acquired that, and that was back, like I said, in 2014. I think we've grown that business 700%.
Wow.
In 5 years. So we've grown that business to a point where sort of we have now got we're nationally recognised for resin flooring. And it was only at the back end of last year we were very fortunate to win the Large Commercial Project of the Year award at the FERFA Awards. So sort of in a very short space of time, we've sort of been able to get ourselves established. I think for the first 2 or 3 years of bringing that service in, it was quite difficult getting over that barrier of we're just a cleaning company.
But it's for me, there's a business strategy term. Well, at least it's the way one of my mentors kind of told me. It's you took the business from where it was, and then you can say one jump, not two. So you took an existing business in an existing sector and added in new services. But every jump that the business has made into new sectors, it's been perfectly executed strategically, at least from the outside, because you're finding things that are complementary, but you're not overstretching. You didn't go into construction, actually erecting steelwork. You know, it's finding your niche, and then gradually you evolve it and mold it. And whether kind of intentionally or not, you kind of appear to have nailed it, at least so far.
Well, yeah, I think obviously still very much a work in progress, but obviously the business model that we sort of we have and we've looked to sort of integrate into the business is that, you know, certainly sort of if you use construction as an example, we want to be targeting the site cabins. You know, we want to be coming in and cleaning the site accommodation, and then we want to be chatting with the guys on site, with the client. You know, what else can we do for you? These are our other services, and right throughout the life of that build, we have other services that we can sell into them. You know, you've got our screeds, the resin flooring, and then you come to the builder's cleans, sparkle cleans, and then the whole idea to finish the loop off is to who's moving into the building. You know, we want to be able to sort of get after the people moving in, which in turn would help grow our FM division.
Because you look after, I think it's a few of my former employers. We won't name them, but I think you do.
Yeah.
I just kind of love the story about how you've been able to kind of do it. Obviously, at the moment, we've got COVID-19. How have you found it, both in terms of the business, you know, how has it impacted you? But then likewise, I imagine with some of the deep clean kind of stuff, there's big opportunities for the future. Yeah,
I think obviously it's been challenging, and I'm sure it's been challenging for everybody. I think the first 2 weeks of us going into the lockdown, I mean, I was sat a week before that happened thinking this would just blow over. You know, I wasn't considering anything, and everybody you were talking to on the phone, it was just business as normal. And then it was just all of a sudden, boom. So we had the first 3 weeks, extremely challenging, extremely stressful, sort of changing how the business operates, how the business runs, following the guidelines, health and safety guidelines. So what we wanted to do, we sort of, you know, people were taking decisions to close the businesses down and sort of, you know, get everybody at home. We sort of took the decision to continue trading. You know, we at the end of the day, we've got 2 divisions that operate cleaning, so cleaning divisions, and we wanted to ensure that we were out there assisting our clients and making sure that we were looking after them and effectively reducing the risk of the spread of the coronavirus. But it has affected things, you know, sort of flooring divisions and things like that that slowed a lot, as I think things will. So our challenges to come, I think that a lot of the work that was there, we've got to see if it's still going to be there in the months to come. Is investment going to remain? Is construction going to continue to push forward once the projects that people are working on at the moment are finished? End users, the clients that we work for in the food and beverage industry, manufacturing, how is that going to hold up? So there's definitely challenges down the line. But I think, like we see, we've gone into this now, and as a business and internally, we're looking at things positively. We do think that there is going to be opportunities out there when we do come out the other side.
Well, one of the classic things is it's like a Warren Buffett quote, but it's almost where there's certain things people are always going to need. So when Charlie was on, people are always going to need property. And realistically, whilst there's still industry, they're always going to need cleaning, and we're probably always going to have construction. So it's also a very safe, good, sensible business to be in. Honestly, I genuinely think that you've got a very good business, and I really kind of like it. So what do you see is the future? What's kind of the next thing for MGF?
Like I said, at the moment, I mean, it's I said what we were looking at doing was sort of consolidating for the next 12 months, and that was prior to sort of the coronavirus coming along. Really finding our feet with the last bit of growth that we'd had, establishing ourselves in the areas where we've started to work, and then from that look to grow. We have got some aspirations and some plans, and where I want to see the business go is, as I've touched on already, the business is here to employ people and to offer opportunities. So my whole goal for this business is to employ as many people as possible. We had set a target of employing 1,000 people within 5 years. Now, that might be 7 years now that COVID-19's come along. But, we really would love to employ 1,000 people, mainly in the Northeast, where opportunities don't come along as readily as they do down in other cities and other areas of the country.
How many people have you got at the moment?
We've got 160 at the moment.
Wow. See, I still think that's, to be honest, even employing 2 people, I think is super impressive, but it's, I think it's really good. So one of the things that I ask all the kind of guests I speak to is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
I would say this went from, it would come from my dad, and it would have been along the lines of, you're going to have to work hard for things because no one's going to give you anything.
It's true.
So, and that's what I've always done. I've looked to work hard at whatever I've done and put effort in. And it's the same across what I ask of everybody in this business as well. We've got to work hard, especially in times like we've got now, where really we're kind of going to have to outwork other businesses like ours. And we're going to have to outwork other flooring companies and stuff like that, to ensure that what business is out there, we can get our hands on it.
One of the things I'm doing with some of the companies is with we're going back and shaking the tree. So it's actually going back for all the customers in the past 2 years, stuff you might have tended for but you haven't heard back on, and actually going through and ringing them all, and just doing anything you can for the low-hanging fruits, just to kind of shore it up. I've got an interesting question on the hard work kind of question, and actually in some ways, do you think the major driver between when businesses succeed or fail, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, is hard work? Because I'll context that, just because for me, it's where a lot of the people that I meet, and these aren't people at your business level, but people that are kind of more mine, where they've started and they might not be making as much money as they want. And it's that balance of where I'll ask them, so actually, how many sales approaches have you made? And unless it's in the hundreds, for me, they're not working hard enough. Like, I set myself my own target of 1,000 people that I would reach out to. And if I reached out to 1,000 people and it still didn't work, I would then rethink. But actually, I think the people that seem to do well are the people that work hard and they've got the determination that when things go wrong, you just keep going.
You just keep going. Yeah. You've got to have a very sort of short memory. So, when things don't go right and don't go wrong, you've just got to put that behind you and then move on to the next thing. I mean, we could talk for the next 2 hours about the things that have gone wrong in the last few weeks. It's just part and parcel of being in business and stuff like that. But certainly the hard work, the resilience, and you've got to persevere. That's the sort of biggest thing about it all. It's perseverance. I think a lot of people will throw in the towel a little bit too early. But just back yourself, because if like I said, if one thing doesn't work out, there's always something else that you can do from it and learn from it.
Cool. And then just because I know you're a busy man and you've got family and stuff to go back to, if you were to give advice to your younger self, and you can pick whatever age you want, what would it be?
Possibly 2 ages. One would have been at 11 and I should have stuck in at school. And gone on and been like a doctor or an accountant or something, or a solicitor. They seem to charge really good money. Thought when I set up in business, it's sort of like 25, 26-year-old, and the advice would have been to seek out a mentor as quickly as possible. Somebody who has a business where you want to get to, where you want to aspire to. Because to this day, you know, I still don't have that person. And that's why I continue to make mistakes and learn from them on a daily basis.
Do you have a dream for where you want to be in, say, 10 years?
10 years? Certainly have that business that's employing 1,000 people. You know, we'd like to get the business to that point where we're established nationally. I think that's on a business level, but then on a more personal level, I'm going to be happy in 10 years. You know, and that's one of the things I think in life. I think a lot of people sort of forget about is just being happy in what they do, and certainly I struggle with that daily. So in 10 years' time, if I'm happy and you know we've achieved what we want to do with the business, then that would be, and I think we would be great. Yeah.
No, it's got, because I think when, just from some of your answers, when you said that, you know, there were different things that you didn't celebrate, what I almost wanted to do was have something that in 5 years' time I can say to you, look back and watch that video, and the dream was to get to there, and you smashed that last year. And I think sometimes when just having just milestones that are realistic, but actually you soon move past them. And I think it's that, you know, it's almost just celebrating the little wins as well.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I struggle with, and it's giving yourself credit and understanding that sort of where you are now. It is an achievement, you know, and sometimes that does come with a bit of reflection, and you know, because once you get to, like, you set yourself these goals, these targets, you know, you quickly get to them and you forget about them. You don't celebrate them. You're thinking, right, what's next? What's the next target, and the next one, and the next one? And that's what I get caught up in, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. Yeah. And I say, for me, I suppose it's a little bit where it would be nice to take a bit more time and reflect and understand that, you know, we've got the business to a certain point. You know, we've achieved quite a lot, like we've touched on in this call. Sort of, you know, winning the awards with a flooring in only sort of 4 or 5 years of having the company, and you know, employing the number of people that we do now. We've got success stories in the business where people have come up through the ranks and things like that. So, you know, it's good to reflect on that and understand that that is an achievement in itself, but then move on to the next thing.
Cool. Well, I must admit, I know you're a busy man, so I'll let you go. But from when we met in whenever it was, October, December, whatever it was last year, I've always been really impressed with everything. And then actually for me, it's your marketing and your branding stands out because you embrace and show real people and real stories, and not many people do. And I'm interviewing a lady called Charlotte on Monday, who's also from Darlington. And it's almost so she works in PR for Harvey and Hugo.
Harvey and Hugo, I know Charlotte.
Yeah, so Charlotte's on Monday.
Yeah.
But for me is that, so her job is to tell people stories. And actually I'm also part of something called a marketing meetup, which is there's 15,000 marketers around the world, and their job is to tell stories. But the one thing that you're always looking to create, so it's a guy called Joe Glover who runs that, is to have an authentic brand, which people's perception is actually what they receive. And one of the things that I think you do very well, and I think the more we can get your face at the front of it, it will do even better. But actually, it's the authenticity that if you knock on someone's door and say, look, can we have a conversation because I think we can help? I think because you're so authentic, I think it will do really good things for the future.
No, I appreciate that, Steve. Thank you.
No, cool, but I mean it. So I don't know how long that was being. I can't quite read the screen. But
40 minutes or so.
But no, thank you for your time. I'm sure I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can send in some questions for Charlotte on Monday as well.
I will do. Yeah, thanks very much, Steve. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, mate. No worries. Bye.
Yeah, see you soon. Speak soon. Bye.